Hey, good people, it's Sammy Ash here, the Executive Director of the Ash Academy, and your host of our Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. Before we get into the show, I wanted to share a couple updates. First, definitely be sure to join our Career Arc workshop for week 2, where we're discussing career research, both what exactly each position does that matched up with your personality traits, interests, and skills per Gladio's quiz. Then research in terms of what will it take for you to get that job. Do you need a degree? Can you work your way up? And can't forget the importance of internships. Next update is that I will be featured in a roundtable discussion during SIMPTY 2020, an immersive remote experience which takes place November 10th through the 12th, held by our partner SIMPTY, which is a global professional society of individuals and corporations collaborating for the advancement of all things technical in the motion picture, television, and digital media industries. Super excited to speak on their mentorship in the industry discussion. And this year's theme is Game On and spotlights the world of esports. So if you're interested and you want to join too, I'll drop the registration link in the description box and it'll be in our link tree. Now let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Ash Academy's Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. I am Sammy Ash, Executive Director of the Ash Academy, and we are joined by men of color in the film and television industry. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I will get through all of these bios of everyone's a multi-hyphenate, so give me a moment to get through all of these illustrious careers. But first we have Jonathan Park. He has worked for 10 years as an electrician and lighting technician in both live theater and television. His clients include productions from Viacom, CBS, NBC Universal, and more. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Then we have Mano Alexandre Jr. He is a Haitian filmmaker, video journalist, instructor, and one of my instructors from the past. So I definitely thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Then we have Marc Reign. He is a full-time artist from Spanish Harlem. He's an actor, director, photographer, cinematographer, and editor with a creative. He's been a creative engineer for the last 10 years. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Then we have Christopher Alvarez, who is an educator, director, cinematographer, editor at AFI, that's American Film Institute, media coordinator at LAUSD, and friend of the foundation through SIMPTY Hollywood. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, inviting me.
Absolutely. And friend of the foundation, Robert R.J. Beale. He is a TV production coordinator working in the industry for over 10 years. So thank you for coming on back.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, friend of the foundation, Kalif Fuller, an indie filmmaker and product support specialist with X2X Labs, providing production support. So thank you so much for coming back as well. And now let's get into it. So as this usually goes, I don't have any set questions. I really just want to have a conversation. I'd like to go around the Zoom room and see how everyone got into the industry. Like how did you break in? So anyone can start.
I'll start since I think I just kind of am transitioning or barely breaking in, I would say.
Okay, awesome.
As far as like a full-time professional job, I think for the last 12 years, I've been freelancing with camera work and with editing, just doing anything from weddings to little like independent commercials, even a political campaign at some point, um, which aired on TV. Like sometimes I would get these like really big jobs, sometimes I would get these really tiny jobs. But as for the last year, I've been permanently working at the American Film Institute.
Awesome.
And the way that happened is I actually, right during my last year of film school, AFI kept coming up. I wasn't going to AFI. I was going to a university called Cal State Fullerton. And then they kept mentioning AFI because of their top 100 films, right?
Mhm.
And that's how I caught like my eye on them. And then I noticed that they were going to have a film festival. So I volunteered at this film festival just because I was obsessed with movies. And then, long story short, they kept inviting me back. And then they're like, oh, you do camera work? Let's move you to the camera department. So then I started like working for free in the camera department. And as the years progressed, they kept calling me back. And then I became like the lead cinematographer and then the lead like cinematographer producer for like hiring the other camera people.
Mhm.
And so they hired me like for 7 years, and I had to do a temp job at the school for an editor because they also liked my editing, or they saw my editing through the film festival. And then she was gone for 3 months. She came back, and in those 3 months, I just know that I I went really strongly in all the edits, and I really tried to shine and really just put it everything I got. But meanwhile, I have 12 years of experience editing and all this stuff. And she came back, and then I just kind of stayed there. And then they kept giving me like bigger and bigger edits. So it became more about just uh, your artistry, but also being passionate about your artistry and showing it. And yeah, now I've just been there for like a year.
Awesome. I would say the key takeaway is being present, showing up, and that might be that might be the way that you end up breaking into this industry. Awesome. Who's next? Jump on in.
I guess I'll go next. So my journey really has been sort of like desire to self-expression. Yeah, so I spent a long time from when I left high school to actually graduating college. I spent, I got kicked out of school, and what I mean, trying to spend a lot of years hitting the pavement in the '90s in New York City. What I mean? I was in music industry for a little while and all that stuff. And then finally, I went back to school, and I really wanted to finish school. But it was that time where I left Haiti and basically trying to find myself in the United States. You know what I mean? So yeah. So when I went back to school, I was so into academics, academia, learning new stuff, but still I had this voice in my head, just like artistic voice in terms of creating. And I discovered writing at first. I discovered journalism so I went from my associate degree to getting a BA, and I guess at Hunter College. It was media studies and journalism I was writing then, but I still had this desire, but I really wanted to finish school. Because after being in the wilderness for that long, I really wanted my parents to be proud of me. You understand what I'm saying? Get that BA degree. So I got that. So I didn't go to film school and Hunter College. So I left a lot of that creativity, that burning creativity. I left that a lot on the table just for me to be on the money and finish school. So man, 2002, the minute I graduated, I bought my camera, my first camera, VX2000, brother. And I bought a camera package. I still have one of the audio gear here from that package. I got VX2000, and I went to Brazil, man. And before that, I was just learning. I was just learning, like grabbing books, learning everything I could. So I went to Brazil, and I lived there for 2 years, just traveling and just shooting. All of my experiences just shooting there. And then I just escaped from Brazil last minute to go into Brooklyn film school, because I really had that burning desire, because I was on my own. So I didn't have that schooling, that school. I was really in my own head as a filmmaker. So I really wanted to be in a classroom setting. So I get that that back and forth so I could grow because I hit the wall in terms of learning on my own. So yeah, and I went to the Brooklyn Film School. I went to the 2-year program. It was a production program. It was how do you say, a certificate program at first, and I got enrolled. So I learned film production from Professor Hornsby. All this, man, I was immersed in filmmaking and lighting. So I really wanted to do cinematography, because by that time, after I left Hunter College, I really was still about, man, I need a skill. So I tell people that I went to filmmaking because I wanted to be a carpenter, and that's for real. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, I need a skill. I need to be able to make this work for me, because writing, I'm just gonna get paid $25,000 a year. That's no skill right there. I need to actually make something. So I actually learned the skill of camera lighting and stuff like that until I felt good enough, and then I got accepted to an MFA at CCNY, and then that's when really I started being a little bit more sophisticated and really wanted to pursue my voice. And then I did my first film, a documentary over there about the Haitian sugarcane workers, migrant workers in the Dominican Republic. This is a story I've always wanted to tell since I was a kid. So it's a long path to that point. And I arrived at that point, just finally arrived. I feel like I have a master's, and I've been through many experiences. I arrived in terms of having having power in terms of directing my life, in terms of being a Black man in America, having that paper, and then also being creative and having a skill. So that was it. And from there, I was able to teach and able to do more films, and able to still be a cinematographer and director, whatever, and still do things. You know what I mean? So that was my journey.
Awesome. Definitely shout out to CCNY, City College of New York.
Professor Lou, God rest his soul.
Yes, rest
that was my mentor.
Absolutely. But yeah, just so much the importance of having professors who look like you. That's very important. We'll touch on representation a little bit later. So I do appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Who is next?
I'll go ahead.
Go for it.
I got my first taste for entertainment working in post-production, small facility, and I started at the bottom, worked my way up. But I saw that I didn't want to pursue it for like the rest of my life. I'm more of a social person, so I enjoy collaborating and working with people, and I ended up in an editing bay working by myself for 80-90% of the time, and it was a lot of hours. So while it paid the bills, it wasn't what I was passionate about. I went back to film school, learned all about production from Cal State Northridge, which gave a pretty good overall a basic knowledge, but of many departments, of pretty much all of them. Whether it's working audio and a boom mic versus camera or lights. So from there, starting out, PAing and odd jobs and that, whatever I can do, I happened on the show, and my contacts through those shows took me into the motion picture and event unions in Los Angeles, and then from there, just I've been fortunate enough to work on some of the biggest things. I'm sure many of you have seen stuff that I've worked on. So that's just a brief intro. It's luck and a lot of hard work and a lot of persistence.
Awesome. We're eventually going to get you to name drop, but we'll leave it alone for now. But thank you so much. Who is next? Who's going to jump in?
I guess I'll go. I was trying to figure out my story. It's short. So I went to Hofstra University and graduated with my BA in TV video. Hofstra, they have the largest commercial TV facility in Long Island, all the good stuff. Great school, loved it. They trained me really to be more of like a producer and work in the studio environment. But I did not know where I was going to fall in, but I just wanted to work in television. But I graduated in 2008. So at that time, nobody had a job. So like I was out there working on every little odd job. And actually, my old supervisor, I was working in the media, like the AV department. like in terms of like distributing AV around for the class. And he called me back because the presidential debate was that year, and he said, "Can you work on the debate?" And I said, "Sure." So, I worked my ass off. Sorry, didn't mean to curse. And then we got. I know they were like, "Come and stay." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I was like, "I don't have a job. I'm gonna go back to school, get a free master's." So I got my master's in speech communications and rhetorical studies. And when I graduated from that, I got back out there, and there still were no jobs. So I was working I was a temp for an engineering firm. I worked for the George Soros Foundation. I worked for so many different organizations and different jobs just to pay the bills. And then one of my friends from Hofstra, Christina Georgiandis, she said, "Hey, there's a PA job. Would you like to take it?" And when there's no money rolling in, you take anything. And then it was like a PA job and working in television, I'll take it. The lady was like, I think my day rate was like 125. I was like, boom, great. So I did that, and I stepped into reality television. So I got a lot of callbacks to reality. So you name like Glee Project, The Face, The Taste, MasterChef, all those type of things. I was doing all the castings in New York.
Awesome.
Right, but when you're doing those PA jobs, those are like 2-day jobs, you know what I mean? They're not, or they're like 5 days. They're really short. So you don't, it's all about word of mouth and trying to stay on top of it. And you're doing 6 o'clock crew calls and working 18-hour days. So it's not necessarily sustainable all the time. Exactly, when my bills were coming in every day, so I was working as EA as a long-term temp position. And one of my best friends, she, unbeknownst to me, she had opened up an email account, uploaded my resume. It was actually like she was like basically applying for jobs for me. So I got a call from HBO, and this lady called me. She said, "Do you want to come in and be a media coordinator?" Do I know what that is? I did not know, but I said I was going to take the job. So I went in there. I lied through my teeth. I was Googling stuff. Jarletta, if you hear me, I'm really sorry, but I love you. I was like making up stuff in an interview, but they took me in, and I worked at HBO. That was a contracted position. And with contract positions in TV, especially when you get these big networks, when the contract is over, they have these blackout periods where you just cannot work for that network for another 6 months because it's a good way of them not paying for your health insurance. So so I was, they wanted me, they wanted to keep me, but I kept getting these extensions, but they would have to hire me full time. It was a lot of like month to month, not knowing if I got the job or not. And another friend of mine, Janita Bellamy, who actually I went to school with at Hofstra too, called me. She said, "Hey, I'm over at BET. They're creating a new position. Do you want to try it out?" Right? And this is the position that she has started. She's like, "Try it out. Just go for it." And I went in. I actually went into the interview not knowing one lick of what I was going to do. I did not know the vocabulary I was using. I really went in the interview just with my knowledge of everything I've done in the past and how I just applied it to that job. I mean, wow. So I got the job there, and I wanted to get into production. The job I took at BET was an on-air coordinator position, so we did like scheduling, promos, and graphics, and we basically maintained all the major BET nets. So it's like BET Centric, which is now BET Her, BET Soul, BET Gospel Jams, all of that. All of that is scheduled, and it's by somebody like me, and we basically take care of that baby 24/7. And I did not want to do. I love the job. I love the fact that I got to work on these great shows, and people are watching TV, and I'm like, I do that. So that was great. But I wanted to get closer to production because when you work in television and you're working on the on-air part, you just get to see the end of it. So like, you hear, we're gonna go to set and go tape and all that kind of stuff, and then they hand a tape, and then it comes on air, and then it comes to you. I wanted to be on set. I wanted to have those conversations. I wanted to be in the production meetings and stuff. So I took a jump, and I am now working in this is my second or third year in production coordinator, as a production coordinator for brand creative at BET. And basically my job is I do like the smaller projects, but I maintain production assistants. I do all the production finance for my department. I do a lot of the scheduling. I do a lot of logistics and stuff like that. But it's kind of, I like it because I get to really go on set. I get to I get to do a little bit of everything. I get to really get my hands in dirty. So that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, who is? Oh, actually, before we move on, I will touch on that gig economy aspect because I feel like it's touching a lot of the lives on the squares today, um, or it's been a past. So we definitely want to touch on that and just let people know that it's something to brace yourself for. If you don't know that's coming for you, it is not the easiest thing to just plan the rest of your life around. So, um, absolutely, just to say it plain. Who is next? We got two folks that haven't spoken.
I guess I'll go. Um, so my story, I I didn't actually start acting till about I was 22, which I think most people would say is late. I actually did mechanical engineering first. I got an associate's in mechanical engineering over at City Tech in downtown Brooklyn. My dad was an engineer. I was really good at math. I wanted to design cars from a creative place, but it definitely didn't, feed my soul, I guess you could say. And so whatever, I had transferred to CCNY. Shout out to CCNY. And initially I went for a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. They have a great mechanical engineering program at CCNY. And so long story short, my first day of a very full class schedule of equations. My first day of school was calculus 2. I sat down, the professor, put up an equation, and I was just like, this ain't for me. This ain't it, you know? And so I was like, right there, I got up, I apologized to the professor, it was kind of disrespectful just leaving his class like that. But I had heard that CCNY had a bachelor program in theater. And I had always, like, I guess you could say, dreamt about it, and I was like, you know what? Somebody told me, but that's a whole other story. But somebody told me I should try it. So I was like, I gotta try it. Boom, I end up at the theater department, spoke to, who ended up being my mentor, about my situation. As fate would have it, I was a day late from switching my majors. So technically I was supposed to be stuck doing engineering, but Professor Matos is his name at CCNY. He I don't know what he did, but he took my paperwork. He came back and he was like, listen, you're a theater major right now and you're late. Acting 101, and boom, to make a long story short, I just really threw myself at it 100% and completely fell in love, with performing, with expressing, with really just connecting, because we could break down acting in multiple ways. But, and then it grew, because, the way the industry works, you have to do self-tapes and stuff like that as an actor. And so I had booked a gig and it gave me a decent check, and so I invested in the camera and some lights, and I was like, I'm going to do my own self-tapes, I'm going to try my own headshots. This is me just trying to cut the middleman, and, through that exploration of the camera and stuff, I fell in love with the camera, setting up the shot, learning about how to manipulate the light and understanding all these different things, and just really being a sponge, And so I call it YouTube school, because really all I did was go to YouTube and say how to blank, whatever I wanted to try. It was like there for you. Somebody got it, And so I would go out, shoot something, come back, edit, and I sat there for hours and hours and hours teaching myself Adobe Premiere, starting off of Windows Movie Maker, though, really. Can't leave that part out. I started on Windows Movie Maker. and then upgrading to Adobe, and then, trying to understand that spaceship of buttons, you know what I mean? But really through just trial and error, just trying, being okay with failing, actually being excited to fail, because you're like, okay, there's something else to learn. You know what I mean? There's something else I need to figure out here. And I don't know, I guess that's how my brain works. Once I get curious about something, I just need to know all about it. And so, I never told myself there's nothing I can't do. I never let nobody put a box on me. So it was like, I was acting, you know what I mean? I was shooting headshots. I was working baby showers, shooting music videos, shooting film. I really was doing maybe too much, But I really enjoyed doing all of these things. And to, I think, a very high level, to a stage where people start to acknowledging or like, oh yeah, like, yeah, this was really good, but always staying honest with your work, looking at it, like my photography, looking at it, I think we were talking about lighting earlier and being like, okay, figuring out the light setups, what works better, what doesn't work, and just applying myself and showing up, really trying to learn as much as possible, because on set, being a PA, being the audio guy, holding the boom, holding the camera, like just really applying myself and putting myself in every position almost on set. And it really like heightened my awareness then as an actor, and I think that's something that I definitely like to talk about a lot, because as an actor, you got to be comfortable on set, in front of a camera, in front of a crew, doing whatever, living in the moment. And sometimes that can be difficult, but I feel like because I've, stepped into so many of those other areas, those fields, that it's given me this other level of comfortability and awareness that now, you know what I mean? Like I feel even stronger. And so it's been a ride. I was still working as an engineer up until 2015. I was still doing acting, doing all those things, and working full-time as an engineer at my dad's company. I was making good money, but then ultimately, I did my first amateur film. It was a horror. I spent like almost $5,000 on that. And then I realized that, I could really go full-time at this, and I could really make moves, because this industry, as all you know, it takes everything and then something, And so here I am 10 years later now, starting since 2010, having done as many projects as I've worked on, and just being grateful for the rise and staying solid for the climb, because there's still ways to go,
Absolutely. As you're running back your story, we went to City College together. We got to tell everybody.
Yeah.
And I took a minor in theater. My undergrad degree is film and video production. So I was like, I'm going to minor in theater because I feel like there's something I can learn in the directing realm there that won't be touched on in the program. So I met all the theater kids right before I graduated, and they're some of my best friends. So I definitely want to shout them out. And I feel like I was present during like one of your first auditions.
Yeah.
I feel like that timeline aligns right when like you're doing this, like, hey, I want to start acting. So I think
Yeah.
I was in the room.
Oh, you were
So,
there for sure. I remember.
so awesome. Thank you so much. Now, Kalif, you are last.
Hey everybody, Mark, you took me back with the Windows Movie Maker, bro. You took me back with that one. I was like, I remember that. I remember that. Have my HP, my Movie Maker. That was yeah, man. My little mini DV tape. Yeah. So yeah, had a mini DVs. I know y'all remember that. Yeah. I've been in the film. I kind of itch, that little light bulb went off when I was about 15. I was like, oh, that's like something you can actually do as a career, like, like really do. And so I kind of just really started watching and consuming as much movies that I had never seen before, old movies, indie movies, big movies, everything, foreign films. And it kind of, that just interest just built and built. And so I went to college at the University of Kansas. I'm from Denver. And although I said we got a lot of New Yorkers in the house, but went to from Denver, but went to University of Kansas, and that's in the KC filmmaking market, Kansas City filmmaking market, and I just that's kind of where I cut my teeth and just made my projects in school, all of which were horrible, as we all remember them first films. And I worked on professors' films, worked on my films, worked on friends' films. Just really kind of did it all as far as just on that very early stages of just trying to learn the craft. And then my senior year, I worked on my first big production as an intern back in, what was that, 2010, and yeah, you know, it was like the first time being on like it's like a TNT show, and I was an intern, and I was working 18 hours, not getting paid, but I was so happy to be there. You know, you're just like, oh, this is great. Like, this is amazing. And then, you know, in retrospect, I'm like, there's no way I would ever do that. You gotta pay me now. But at the time, man, it meant everything. So, and it was good because, you know, I really got to see how a production runs, you know, and it's, you know, it's not really something you can read about. You gotta do it, you know. And so it was good to kind of go through that. And from there, I just built that up more and more. And I ended up moving out to LA, and I was a jack of all trades PA for a while, where I was in the camera department, I was in production office, I was in locations, I was on set, in the AD department. And I did that partially because I didn't know, I was trying to figure out the best way for me to where I could live and thrive and survive in LA financially, but also stay in the business. And so I was really just taking anything offered to me. So there was wasn't like I was trying to make my days to get into a particular union. And it was good though, because I learned a lot, you know. I mean, you know, I was in, you know, almost every department that you can be in on set besides sound and the art department, you know, and, you know, I guess G&E, but, you know, I was always like cool with G&E. So, you know, they, you know, push a cart here, you know, grab a light there. Yeah, I've just, you know, been out in LA for a while now, and then I just keep making my own projects and keep, you know, doing my own stuff. But as a way to pay the bills a little more consistently, I happen to, you know, I had been skipped over for a few jobs because of nepotism when I was freelancing on studio films, and I got a little burned by that. I got a little upset by that. So I happened by pure luck. I, you know, felt like I couldn't do anything about it. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey man, my brother works at this company. They're a distribution platform for dailies and cuts. You should talk to him. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, he's from Denver though. So I was like, all right, we'll talk. Well, we hit it off. We ended up talking about the Broncos, go Broncos, Nuggets, go Nuggets, you know, and all that stuff. And so we you know, we hit it off, and I ended up going to work for him at what's now called X2X Media, but at the time it was called Pix. And you know, so I've kind of been there for a while, and I've worked my way up that ladder. So it's a pretty nice way to pay the bills. That's still in the industry, and my title's a product specialist, but pretty much what I do is I'll go on sets and I'll find out best ways for pretty much people that work in production to, you know, make their workflows, you know, more tech forward, more streamlined, more efficient, stuff like that. And when I'm not doing that, I'm writing and making my own stuff. So that's where I'm at.
So, and welcome back. And thank you for a perfect segue into kind of the career and gig economy aspect of this. So first, this is an open kind of dialogue on it. So once you just answer the original question, go for any anecdotes you have on it. But were you prepared for the gig economy, if that's where Robert's can't even get it? Question, yeah, were you prepared for it? Did anyone set you up for success or give you the heads up like, hey, your first job might be X number of months or days or weeks, and then you have to find another gig? So well, go ahead, Robert. You had a very visceral reaction.
This came to this. In my senior year, my teacher, what was it, Dr. Peter Gashan, had a class. He had a class that he wanted us to attend called Graduation to the Real World, where he gave us like all the gritty stuff that, you know, that they don't tell you. I think maybe he must have forgot that part. When you're in college, you have this dream. You just have this. You're kind of on this dream that you're gonna graduate and get a job, and that job is gonna sustain you enough to build so you can become bigger and better. But the reality of the situation is that, yes, you get a job, but it's not always enough to sustain you. And you have to be inventive on how you get bigger and better. It's not going to be just given to you. So, you know, I came out into the world right in the middle of that big bust when everybody lost their job. So, you know, you're talking about people. I was coming into an industry where people had years of they had years and connections, years of experience and understanding stuff, and me going, hey, can I get a job too? And then when you get the job, you realize it's almost like you have to be happy to get the job because they're just like, here's your peanuts, and when you get on set, you do the best that you can. I smiled, I did all the stuff. I made sure people knew my name. I emailed them and kept up with them and all that. And sometimes that was all for nothing. Sometimes it worked out. Sometimes it was for the long game. Sometimes it was short game. There was a girl that I met with on one project that ended up being a production coordinator on another project who hired me a year later. And thank God we just became cool sitting on set, talking and stuff like that, that we had this thing. But that's not necessarily, I'm not gonna say it's fair, but it's not the reality that we sell. We don't sell the reality to people. We don't sell the fact that when you're working on a gig, your insurance is out the door. Don't think about insurance, 401k, sick days, all that kind of stuff. There were times I had to like really go, I'm really feeling sick, but am I sick enough to lose this money today? Which is funny because, if you think about with COVID-19 and everything going on, that's an even bigger reality than before with me than just my little cold. Or, situations where you have a bad taste about a job that you really hated everybody on set and it really turns you off, but you really want to make sure that you're staying on the good side of these people because you still need to get jobs later. And, I will say that in the midst of it, I was stressed and it was very dark, but I think, and this is easy for me to say now because I'm on the other side of that coin, I think it helped me to become much more like versatile in the industry because no longer was I didn't like when I walk into a room now, I'm not just like, I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I'm here. What needs to be done? What can we get? How can I help make these things? Because I'm used to being in that situation where you just have to make it work with what you got. And just so because I know you're picking on New Yorkers, a lot of times I was told that a lot of the people that used to come to New York to do our productions with us, they actually like New Yorkers because we were so much resourceful as PAs because we had to make stuff happen. We didn't have cars, we didn't have when you have to get through Midtown and get or return rental equipment to a rental house and the rental equipment is broken, or you want to get it there on time and you don't want to get there's so many issues that you have to have that I think I'm so thankful that I grew up and I was brought up in the industry in New York because I think that it added a level of versatility to me that I don't know, and I'm not saying LA I wouldn't get it there, but I'm saying that I would say that I am thankful that I got that here because like certain things just don't scare me anymore. I'm just like, leave like that. I have actually gotten a jib into Times Square without a permit. You know what I mean? I am very thankful for that. And if you know anything about New York film laws and how, how you deal with stuff.
Shout out to you on that.
They said, hey, we want to do a shot. Like, can we get this done? And we were on 51st. Just so you know, 51st is not close to where we had to go. We were going to the Red Stairs, like right in the middle, that iconic part in the Red Stairs. We had to get it in there. We did a full jib shot, in and out, not a ticket, nothing. And I'm just saying, like, that's just the stuff I did. And then you think you graduate and then you get to like, I'm like, oh, I'm in a big network now. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow. Then you realize you're like, wait, so y'all got me now in the same situation. You're still not paying me insurance. You're still not paying me benefits. And now I'm working my butt off just for you to consider me for a job. And, one of the things that I didn't realize is that you see like these big networks like HBO and stuff like that. HBO, a lot of their people are union people. And when you're dealing with union jobs, those people don't leave. They stay in that position for a long time. So, you could be a PA at a network that has a lot of union people, or a PA at a union, like at a production house, there's a lot of unionized people, and be waiting, not because that you can't do the job, not because you have this lack of work ethic, and not because you don't understand the industry, because literally you have to wait for the next person to get out their seat and move on with their life. And that's the reality of it. And, and it's not necessarily, just that simple, but it's like, what are you going to do with your time while you wait? Are you going to just be like, am I going to just do what I have to do to keep the status quo and get my paycheck? Or am I going to keep trying to figure out, like, I would go into rooms and literally sit in edit rooms and be like, how do you do that? What's this? How do you do that? Because I'm like, if I'm going to be sitting here waiting to get a job, I'm going to learn every job in the room so that should that job opportunity comes out, I have to get it. And that's how I think what helped me when I got to BT, because yeah, I didn't want to be an on-air coordinator, but I knew that if I got my foot in the door, I can learn all the jobs and get my foot to where I need to be. And so it's a blessing, but there's a lot of curses in there. And the thing is that the reality situation is a lot of people don't have that same trajectory. A lot of, some people, I have some friends that still are PAs and PCs. I have friends who abandoned it and said, I need to get into something more sustainable. But I also have friends who stuck on and they're doing and they're doing their thing. So it's just, it's really about learning how to maximize the moment and understand not necessarily what you have, but what you don't have, what do you do with it to get what you need.
Absolutely. That's some real world advice. I appreciate that. People take heed, be prepared. Anyone else
The,
got some real world stories? Jump in.
the one thing I'll just tag with that is, Robert, you make a great point, man. And I think one of the things I didn't expect when I first got in to the gig, environment and economy is it's one thing when you have that realization, you work on something, let's say you do a show and let's say it's 60 days and you do the show. It's like one thing about, okay, I have 60 days and I got to find the next thing. But what got me was when you do like a back to back to back and you're like, oh, you start getting comfortable. Like, okay, the fourth gig, the fifth gig is coming. It's easy. And then you just, boom, nothing. And I remember in 2013, 14, that's what happened. I was going, everything was good. I was working on stuff. And this was at the time when a lot of jobs were leaving LA and they were going to New Orleans, Atlanta, North Carolina, Detroit, wherever. And I just caught that bubble where I ended the show, work dried up, worked one day in 7 months. And it was rough. It was real rough. So that's something to keep in mind.
And people you have to remember also, what people don't realize getting this industry is that these jobs a lot of times are informed by how the film schedules are for the year, how the TV schedules are for the year. Like COVID-19 has flipped all that on on its head, but fall and everybody knows there's a fall season and there's a spring season. So when they have finished and they got those in the can, until they have renewed that, a lot of people are just waiting, and trying to figure out what the jobs are. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Well, for me, I totally, I sympathize with you because I graduated in 2008 for my MFA. So I got, man, in the, trying to get in that job market. I spent a year, man, just nothing. It was just nothing. And it was the worst feeling coming out of school and, thinking like, yo, man, I have this MFA, I have this, I feel proud of myself, or I have this paper that's supposed to propel me forward, man. And just like looking for a job, it's just random job. It was very disappointing. Yeah, man. So I spent that year. But the one thing one thing that I did, I was prepping. So I was always trying to figure out a way to prepare myself, like having my foot in different industries, right? So I was working in television, broadcast. You know what I mean? I did some internship there. So I was doing broadcast, and I know I didn't want to be in film completely because I know how that industry is a little bit. So I had myself in broadcast a little bit so I could do television jobs and stuff like that. So after a year, I got lucky, and also education also. That was another part that really, so I was really playing with all of these. I'm one person, I always like play the safety areas, and I got lucky and I got some gigs. At first I work with Brick Television. So I've been working with them for 11 years now, which is crazy. I've been freelancing with them for 11 years now. And at the same time, I worked at right after that, I started working with CUNY. And yeah, so I've been there working with them. So they've been really my backbone of support, you know, in terms of keeping money on the table, you know, like building my life in a sense, you know, so I don't have, but before that I was really in the freelance market, which is great. So let me just double back. The freelance market is really, it really is really great for your art, for your soul, and for your development as an artist, and as a career development. It is absolutely great because sometimes when you get to a 9-to-5 gig, you really you could feel very stagnant, and you feel very like you are this is the end of it. Like you can't really leave that because you need to pay the bills. So, you know, I kind of evolved out of that a little bit, but you know, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, the things that we make for our lives, the decisions that we make. So I definitely relate with you, brothers, in terms of the arc of finding a job and keeping it, you know.
Absolutely. Jonathan, I think you were hopping in.
Yeah, you know, I started out while I was still in school working on everybody else's projects. You know, basically labor for labor. You work on mine, I work on yours, that kind of thing. Because it was really hard, you know, to get people to work on your projects, and you're investing your money and your time into it. And you know, I think you get out what you put into it. So if you go out and you network, not just with your own school, but AFI, you know, I worked at pretty much every other film school's projects along the way, and you know, a little bit of money came out of it, and then more and more led to that. But the piece I take away is that you know, always express to the other people that you're working with if you have availability, or if you're looking for the next project, or what they're working on, so you get a feel for what's going on in the industry. And luckily, you know, now I have a couple of people I can call if work slows down. But you know, just you get calls left and right, and you know, who you work with today and who may work for you tomorrow, it could be the same. He could be your boss the next day. So always be the best person you can be. Always be fun to work with, and always try to have fun while you're working. That's what I would take away.
Absolutely.
I have to
Beware.
say that's a big one, if you don't mind, because I mean, working as a freelancer and being a camera DP, I mean, that's what kept me. I mean, that's my calling card. How I work with people. It's just I just happen to have, you know, I like people. I like interacting people, and you know, I have a good disposition in a sense, working people. But in terms of working in productions, man, that's been my calling card in terms of how I work with people, and I see how it attracts more work, and I see how it repels also other people, because I see it is really, really important. So that's a great thing to point out, brother.
Yeah, I think that just entertainment is just very small, and people think that it's like this big cabin. Everybody knows somebody. Look, Mark, just to give you a side story, Mark, I don't know if I met you first. I'm okay. So Mark worked with one of my colleagues, Ramon Pesante, on something, and like, you know, I remember Ramon would give me the rough cuts, and I knew Mark. I knew when they were taping stuff, and it was so funny because I went to another friend of my music video, and she was, you know, taping her music video, and there was Mark, and he was the love interest in the music.
Right.
I actually just put two and two together that you guys would know each other.
Yeah. So it's funny because, you know, we taught, you know, everybody taught. So, you know, it could be that it could have been that easy that, you know, my friend could have came to me and be like, yeah, I'm working with this guy named Mark. And I'm like, ooh, no, you know what I mean? But, you know, but the thing is that, like, I had a great relationship with Mark. I had a great relationship. Like, so, like, it's a small world, and you have to really put your best foot forward wherever you are, because you never know who is going to be that person that you're talking to. I could be talking to my boss right now.
Very, very small.
Not knowing.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say for me as an actor coming out of college, I was warned, you know, you know, but nothing could really prepare you for the real world of this industry, you know, because you come out of college, you like, you know, he was saying earlier, Alexander, you know, you got this paper, you got this degree, you think, you know, oof, this is it, you know, I should wear it on my chest. Should I wear it here so people know, you know? And it doesn't end, you know. Actually, it really just begins where now you have to be the professor for yourself. You have to schedule tests for yourself. You have to really be on yourself to do this so that you give yourself the best chance to book these gigs, you know. Because it's true, you know, you'll have a hot run. Those peaks and valleys, they're crazy. You know, those peaks can be very high, and those valleys, like someone said, you know, a whole year long. You know, and I think one of the things that I wouldn't say caught me by surprise, but something that I definitely had to learn how to move along with is the mental impact of, you know, the constant rejections or the far apart gigs, you know, all that time. You really have to be solid. Like, you have to know yourself. You have to really believe that this is for you, because those times will come where nothing feels like nothing's going on for you, and you know, now you're questioning yourself and all your abilities, you know, and that leads to all other things, which is another topic. But you know, I think that was something that I had to really check in with myself, you know, like, oh, you know, I was like, I literally remember running from audition to audition downtown because I had no time in between. You know, I was that busy. I was like, you know, I was feeling myself and whatever, like, you know. And then one big hit that I took was I had an audition for this nationwide Verizon commercial, and it was a Latino joint, you know, spinoff and whatever. I went in, I killed it. It's a crazy long story. I'm not gonna get into it. It's crazy. But you know, I did my thing. I had everyone laughing. I felt really good about it, you know. And they called me, you know, they had me in the runnings, blah, blah, between you and this other guy. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, long story short, the casting agency calls me and says that I got it. So I'm like, forget it. I was like, oh, I just graduated. I was like, it's a wrap. Like, you know, this was big learning thing for me, because Instagram wasn't around. So I was on Facebook just super hype. Like, yo, just got the ba-da-da-da-da-da, you know. And then 4 hours later, the head of that casting agency called me back and was like, listen, we love you, but my assistant made a mistake. We're actually going with the other guy. And so like that was like a bullet I had to eat, and it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, like, what do you mean? Why not? You know, I was so green at the time, and I didn't have any representation, so I didn't know that I could maybe speak for myself a little bit and be like, well, you know, but like, I don't know. Some people have said some things that I maybe could have said, but I wasn't trying to blacklist myself. So I was just like, I just eat it. You know what I mean? And then she was like, yeah, but I'll tell you, we're gonna get you on something else. And they never did. And so, you know, like those kind of rejections. But you know, I would say you got to learn how to, of course, check in with yourself always. How you feeling? Where you at? You know, and then find another way. Like for me, honestly, I'm so grateful for that, because when that happened to me, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do no more like commercial auditions. None of that. None of that. I'm gonna just go into the indie route. I'm gonna start making my own movies. I'm gonna start networking with people that are making movies, and I'm gonna go that route. You know, and it's paid off in a lot of ways, and it's a major struggle going that way too, you know. But you gotta love this. You gotta love this
You know, Mark,
if you're gonna be in it.
You make a great point about, like, you know, being able to kind of take a hit like that on the chin and like keep, because that's something that I feel, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I feel like a lot of people, a lot of us, you know, have had colleagues, acquaintances who are also just as, you know, hype, you know, initially, and then that first punch kind of comes and it's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna go over here and just like try something else. And it's like, no knock on them, you know, but it's like you have to, that's something to the young kids out there. You got to be able to be like, rejection is going to come, you know, and you have to be able to take that and harness it and push through it. I think, Christopher, you were just talking about how you know, started at AFI volunteering, and that where you're at now, you know, it's like you kind of got to get through that those waves, man, because it's no joke. But you grow from it too. You really do.
Yeah, I that's a very good point. The rejection. This is a funny story. As I was doing the AFI Fest, they actually brought me in for an interview, and I didn't get the job that I have now, the editor job. But when I was sitting on the couch waiting for the interview, the girl next to me who got the job, we became friends and we talked and we hit it off. And I didn't get the job, she got the job, but she ended up being like cool with me. And she ended up like always calling me, like, she continued to call me for the festival. And like, we kept that relationship going. And that's how she saw my work too. And then like different people saw my work, but I don't know, I guess I feel like I'm not a very good networker. Like when as soon as you got out of film school, people are like, oh, you gotta go shake hands, you gotta go smooch, you gotta go to these parties, you gotta do it. And I was like, always felt weird doing it. And I feel that for me, at least, every job that I've gotten that was a good job was because someone saw me work. So they saw me work hard and they saw me do my thing. And that's how how I stood out. It never was about like, I mean, the relationships are going to be there. I can't tell you how many people I've shook hands with, but like, they're just names that pass and go. Like, in order to stand out, you have to make this more of a solid foundation. And for me at least, it's been through like showing my work. And even back to AFI, right? So the very like, I got rejected to that job, and then they ended up just hiring me because they needed to, right? Because they needed that position and that person, and I could fill it. So it's just an interesting thing. But I'm going to touch a little bit on, aside from the AFI job, I was teaching part-time for the LA Unified School District, and I've been there for like 12 years, and now they're like, once COVID hit, we're off right now. Mm-hmm. But I just was thrown in there to teach kids. So I had 100 kids and I had to teach them filmmaking, and I had to figure it out. And I had no training manual, no nothing. And because I had to figure that out, I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to direct, how to green screen. Like, a kid would come in with an idea like, okay, we want to make a movie where we're on the moon. There was no bad ideas. Like, no bad ideas. I took everything and just like every film at every school. Like, I visited like close to 100 schools, and we have 140 schools. And we've done like hundreds of short films about anything and everything. We've gone in time machines. We had one where like a little girl dressed up as Rosa Parks, and she like reenacted like on the bus, like all sorts of things. But the reason I bring that up is because that whole time I was crafting my skill, and I was getting better at like cinematography and editing and directing. Like, I was directing these kids, and I was just getting better and better. So then when like a big job came, I just knew how to do it. I just knew how to edit. So I think like that's something important for students, that you should master all these little skills, right? Like, I think Mark was talking about YouTube. YouTube's your teacher. Like, anything that you are passionate about, you should go into. And as far as like right now, I'm having to interview a lot of, or I'm having to edit a bunch of interviews with really big directors, from Spike Lee to Steven Spielberg to everything in between, set designers, actors. And something that like a constant theme that's happening is that no one knows what's going to happen with like the industry and Corona right now. But they all have one piece of advice I want to pass on to you guys. And it's like, if you're an artist and if you're a student, right now is the time for you to just hone in on your art. Like, yeah, we're in a gig economy and we don't know what the next step is, but you might as well shoot something on your iPhone. Like, get out there, figure out what it is you want to shoot, what is the story you want to tell, and then worry about fine-tuning your own voice, you know. And that's like something that I've learned, and like now I'm like making my own short films, or even like photography, even like simple photography shoots, but it's like I craft them in such a confident way that I never have before, and right now is the time to do it.
Absolutely. Everyone you will see on my LinkedIn, lifelong learner. Any of the other marketing stuff that I put in front of that, lifelong learner for life. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to learn how to code. I'm going to still think about something else to edit, like this podcast. But like there is no stopping on refining things, and you're going to learn whatever career path you go into. There's going to be something else for you to learn. New technology comes along. You're going to need to pivot and figure out that new thing. I
I
guess
had to teach myself streaming.
I mean, yeah.
How to
Yeah,
stream
every
from
time something else comes
Zoom.
up and things that you're gonna need to do, yeah, you're gonna need to learn it. So, yeah, absolutely. And you never know when or what it's for, either. So just be ready. Just be ready. Now, something Christopher mentioned at the top of his story was networking. So I do want to hear a little bit more about everyone's kind of outlook on networking. Have your jobs come from a lot of networking? Have you kind of been one of the people that networking's not really my thing? I'm an introvert. Um, so
Yeah,
anyone jump in?
I'll
Go
start.
for
I
it.
guess I'll start off this time. Networking is a skill. I'm not gonna lie. It's an ability that, I think some people have maybe a little bit more than others, and that's okay. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, but just understanding that networking is so vital to your career as an artist. I think in general, but definitely in the entertainment industry, I was taught it's not who you know, it's who knows you, you know, and um, and I can't tell you how many. Actually, my whole career is very word of mouth. You know, I just put my heart and soul into everything I get put into, and like Christopher said, people, they kind of just see the work and they're like, yo, this guy, he puts in the work, and then that leads to the next thing and the next thing. And I'll also elaborate a little bit more and speak about social media, right now being all that it is, a whole new world, right? Of like media entertainment, because it's taken over literally, but that's a whole other thing. um I have a decent amount of following, and that's come from just, if you see my IG, I do a bunch of comedy skits and just networking, like literally meeting someone else, knowing someone else who does skits, doing it with them, going to all types of events, meaning that, oh, you do skits, cool, to do a skit. And so, I've worked my way up to almost 23,000 followers now. And just having that, because that's not the most amount, but just even having that, I get opportunities that I wouldn't have if I didn't network the way that I do. Honestly, just speaking, not too long ago, I got reached out from a talent manager, a legit one too, at a legit agency from New York, and they found me on social media because they saw my something, and they saw, I guess, all my other stuff, and was like, hey, like this guy, and I would not have gotten that if I didn't put myself out there to meet the world, and it's important. I would say that.
I will jump in because I will safely say 85%, 95% of my jobs are from people that I knew. But I think that a lot of times when people think of networking, people get caught up in this whole like, let me shake your hand and say hi and ask you these surface level questions about like, how you're doing so I can insert the fact that I want a job, and it is not lost on anybody that is working that other people want to work too. So you like don't. I think that a lot of times people get caught up in that robotic, like transactional, like hi, my name. They put the little name tag on. They go to the networking event. They get like 5 cars and they go home. But I think that most of my great networking connections have been with people I honestly like had a connection with and just worked on making connection, not trying to figure out what they can do for me, but just making a connection, because that stuff will be revealed when you make the connection. There are people that I thought that I wanted a job from that actually I just needed mentorship from. There are people that I wanted mentorship from that I needed sponsorship, and I need, there's different levels to the connection that you make. And if you really concentrate on making connection and not trying to get on the fact that this person gets you a job, I promise you all that other stuff will roll through. Like when my friend called me from, for the job about BET, it wasn't because I was like, hi, I need a job. We went to school together. It was because we talked all the time. But she also knew, because we were talking all the time, she knew my struggles with working. She also knew all what I already had done. She also knew my whole schedule. So when it came to actually vouching for me, she had my resume already set. So I didn't have to do all this extra stuff. I just had to get inside the door. She introduced me and it was good from there. And I'm not saying they just are hire, Rob, here's all the money. No, it was more so I already had a great foundation, because when somebody had a really great relationship, was willing to vouch for me in such a way that they just wanted to hear what I had to say. So, it's not about having 300 friends in film. It's about having 5 friends that that you can count on, that that will show up to your stuff, that will support you, and you will support them naturally. And get off of the fact that somebody's going to do something for you. Just put yourself out there and just make a connection with people. It's so much easier than this transactional thing, because I think that's what people get caught up in. They get put up in a room, and everybody's been there with the the networking event, and then everybody's running to the bar because they're like, oh God, I'm gonna do this, and then you go home because you're like, I'm so drained, because it's not sincere. So I would say if you go to a networking event, bring a friend and bring the extrovert friend, because they will help you make those connections. And if you go home at the end of the night, go home with just a base level idea of where can I go with the knowledge I got from tonight? Not necessarily that everybody tonight I'm gonna meet is gonna do something for me.
Absolutely. I am a presenting extrovert introvert. So when we get into networking situations, that's when I turn it on, and I'm here. I'm the representative Sammy. So it's very interesting because most of my friends are usually introverts, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to talk to." I was like, "Oh no, it's time to talk to people. This is the time." So that's why you see me moderating a podcast.
One thing I want to
Directing
point
traffic.
out.
Go for it. Go for it.
One thing I want to say is, you mentioned the networking and following through, following up with people. I'm not really good at networking as well, and social media is a huge problem for me, because I kind of shunned it for a while, and but I see now social media is your networking. So, I think the generation nowadays is easier, but at the same time, you still have a problem if you don't follow through on an organic way. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So follow up with people, man. Letting people know what you're doing, not just trying to show off or whatever, but just actively trying to, keeping in touch with people, and mentorship. Another thing you mentioned too, man. Mentorship is something so important, man. Even whatever age you're on, right now, I'm really, it's okay, I really need a mentor right now for this stage in my life right now. So at every stage in your life, you need a mentor that will help you, propel you, that's kind of give you, that support. I think is definitely. So it's not really just somebody give you a job. It's really somebody that's there for you, man. Put you in the right direction. So definitely, I agree with that.
Absolutely. That's a big part of what the Ash Academy is working on. Oh, you are muted, Rob.
I'm sorry, can I just add one more little thing?
Go for it.
Also the fact that all of us are people of color on this call. It is very important that you find other people of color, because the thing is that now the industry is in a place where people really want people of color in the room, because apart from the fact that it really is valuable to the end product, it really looks good. So a lot of companies are now we want people of color, but and I'm saying
It's now good marketing for them.
I'm just but
For sure.
I didn't, yes, I'm at BET, so I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people at BET. But I've been in so many jobs before I got there where I just wanted that one person to just that look like me to be able to talk for me or just to help me navigate, because there is no green book for how to navigate the industry as a person of color. There's no green book to deal with the microaggressions that you're going to deal with, and there's no manual to deal with that. But the best way I found that is that find people of color who are a little bit further in there, because they've seen it and they've been through it, and they can give you sage wisdom that that you can get through. And I say that to people because people don't realize mental health in this industry is really real, and mentorship is part of that. If you don't have a mentorship, you're on an island by yourself and you're going to be fighting battles that you're not prepared for. If you can find somebody who can like vouch for you and who can bolster you, that can help you get through some of your worst moments.
Come on, Pastor. Come on. Anyone else want to share on the networking before we segue into another topic?
I just want to then add a little bit before you move on that you should never talk further than you can walk. You know what I mean? And that's what I think, Andre was saying, like, you don't want to over talk and seem like you're thirsty for work. A genuine connection is necessary. It's not always going to work for everybody because some people don't want to meet nobody. So you may walk up to somebody, say what's up, maybe try to get to see what they're doing or whatever your approach to the conversation is, and they're so closed off, and there's nothing you can do about that. It's literally like being at a party and asking somebody to dance. Like, you don't know if they're gonna say yeah, but you got to take your shots. You got to try to see who wants to dance, and sometimes you'll come out with a really good dance, and sometimes you're not gonna get no dances, But you're not gonna know that unless you go to the party.
Anyone else hop on in on the networking?
I would say for me, I'm a bit of an extrovert as a person, but I'm just an awful salesman, just a terrible salesman. I'm terrible because I don't have that gene. That kind of, my hustle gene is more just work based. So the way I've always networked and the way I've always I guess put myself out there has kind of been mainly just through like, working my butt off. And, typically, the film set is not it's one of the least diverse working environments, I think, in the West, and so I feel like, when you are especially a Black young man like myself, and especially early on, working, and doing a damn good job, people tend to know. And then I like talking to people, you're on set a lot of hours. So I want to at least be able to, shoot the crap. I'm trying not to cuss. I want to be able to. I want to shoot the shit with. I want to shoot the shit with people if I'm going to be around somebody for 12 plus hours. And so, I like to, find out about people, talk with them, talk about all type of stuff. So that's typically always been how I do it. And I was always really bad at it. But the one thing, and somebody mentioned it earlier, the one thing I've gotten better at, or I got better at doing before I joined the company I'm at now, was just being like, oh, hey, yeah, what are you doing now that we have a day left on this show? Because if you need a guy, because I used to just be like, all right, that was fun. We should grab a beer sometime. I'll see you around. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't do the last kind of extending of the branch. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that you got to do what you're best at. Like, I mean, I feel like if I was, well, that's irrelevant. But the point is like, I'm good at just kind of talking with people naturally and all that stuff. But, if you have an interest, let somebody know what, direction you're interested in going. Because most people that are cool are interested in finding that out. If you're also cool, it's if you're a douche where people don't really care.
Yeah, I feel like you should always tell people what you want to do. What you're doing today might not be what you want to do in 5 years or after that, but you know, if people don't know what you're passionate or most passionate about, they can't help you get there. So yeah, just share and check in with everybody.
Absolutely.
And also staying professional, man, because it could bite you in the butt, man. Staying professional. Like sometimes you could break your own code because whatever that's going inside of you. You know what I mean? I've had people mention that to me or whatever. It's not something common, but in one gig I did, I just I sort of like let something get into me. That was in the early years, and the person actually told me, "Oh, I didn't know you had that side of you or whatever." It was, it wasn't nothing drastic, but the fact that the person mentioned that sort of tweaked my head. Okay, this is, you have to maintain a certain professional level in terms of, because you never know. This is a professional career path, and this is part of the networking. This is gonna follow you. This is your track record. That's what I'm saying. Even if you're dealing with, let's say you're dealing with unruly person on the set that is keep your mental track, what I mean, that kind of stuff. I think when we're young.
Well, Mono, to Robert's point, that's one of the best reasons why, as men of colors, have you a partner on set that you can just be like, just to make sure, just like, you can run by like, okay, somebody just said this to me. I'm not going crazy. Am I? Like, I heard somebody say a little something something. I just want to, and they can kind of help you, because we all know that moment, no matter your race, your background, or gender, or orientation. We all know that moment when you hear that thing, you're like, is that, did you just say something? I muted myself. It don't go down right. So y'all know.
Absolutely. I want to take a moment to ask you kind of an interesting question. How does it feel to be kind of the representation for other people? So people looking up to you, how does that feel?
I'll start.
Go for it.
I think that it shows, respect, and that you can help somebody else out. Like you said, I'm always learning, and I'm always willing to learn. I think that there's not always only, just one way to do things. There's a lot of ways that it can be done. Maybe it's not the most efficient. Maybe it's not as good in people's opinions, but doing your best job, and people will recognize that you put in that hard work and that you're dedicated to it. And so I'll name drop on some projects here. It was
finally
that I got to start. 2016, I had just barely gotten a union card in Los Angeles, and I got to work on Hairspray Live. That was my first time ever on the Universal Studios backlot. It was NBC's holiday performance, huge opportunity, and it was kind of a favor because somebody else ended up canceling out on a gig that I had, and as a favor, they're like, hey, you might work well on this. One day turned into 3 weeks of work. Those same bosses ended up taking me to the Grammys. They ended up taking me to the Oscars, and I've worked on pretty much every big live award show and live events. Like, that's more or less my specialty. Unfortunately, in the day of COVID, I reverted back to TV from theater and live events, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to work there. And most recently, I was working at Television City, all electric wise. I did camera work initially starting out many years ago, and I still have a passion for it. I still like doing it, but you go work what's offered to you and what you excel at. So yeah, that's what got me to where I am today.
Awesome. Those chance meetings and those like, oh, hey, this small opportunity, you never know what that one moment just going could turn into. That speaks to networking. That just speaks to your career trajectory. Like, you never know. So take those chances, everyone. That's all I'm saying there. Who else wants to hop in? How does it feel to be someone that everyone looks up to as representation now?
I will say that I have so many identities. I am Black. I'm also gay. So I've always been the other in the room. So I've been on sets where I've only been the black person, and and it happens sometimes when they ask you, they ask you stuff that almost seems like you're representing all the black people, and I don't know if necessarily is a good thing. I'll say that, but it worked for me. My mother has always been like really strong about the fact that she was like, you are who you are, but because of who you are, you have to be that much more. You have to have that much more integrity. You have to be that much more, on point. And I don't necessarily know if that's necessarily great. That could be part of some of the mental health issues I have now. But I will say this, that it helped me to kind of keep kind of stay on the line, because I'm always the other. I never get comfortable, because of the fact that I know that because I'm the other, there's always somebody not only just looking at me, somebody might be looking at me to mess up, because this is the first time they let me in the room and let somebody of my kind in the room, and they don't want to, they're looking to be like, let's see what he's gonna do, because I've never seen this person, do that. So I've always been kind of like, for myself, had really like high work ethic, expectations for myself, higher than what my boss might ask of me, because of the fact that I don't want anybody to ever say that I have these type of issues, or that things that I can easily clean up. But I mean, also the other part of that is because of the fact that I've gotten comfortable speaking up about things that other people might be quiet about, because I'm always going to be the only person in the room saying it. You know what I mean? And for right now, until we get more people like us, there have been times I spoke up, and I was like, okay, I spoke up. I don't know if I'm about to lose my job, but I'm going to speak up, because at the end of the day, if I am the only person in the room, I think to me it's my responsibility to speak up about the things that don't serve the people that, that are going to come behind me.
I mean, that's
1000%, bro.
That's how we brought in Kalif for his first podcast episode. Speaking up and speaking out. Go for it.
That's absolutely right. But I have to say that it's a gradual thing, because you don't come out of the gate learning. I mean, it depends on what your character profile is in terms of what your personality type is. You know what I mean? You don't come out the gate and just start speaking up. For me, personally, it's for some people, it's a gradual process in terms of how you find yourself speaking up. Because you're speaking up in your personal life and speaking up in your work life. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're in the workspace, it's a gradual process, because a lot of people, there's a lot of microaggression, there's a lot of politicking around work, where it's hard for you to speak up. So I to that, it's a gradual process. But without losing my frame of thought, it's very it's very important to find your voice throughout this whole process, you know what I mean? To try to capture your voice and understand where your voice is, and and I think that's something. It's not gonna come immediately, so don't pressure yourself, you know what I mean? Not having that voice or not being bold or whatever, you're gonna find it. But it's important for you to connect yourself with your voice, you know what I mean? And bringing it back to the whole mentorship part, it's always been difficult, because for me, it's like I looked up to people, right? And, being a Haitian kid, looking up to Wyclef, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And also being an immigrant and so I've always put that on myself to try to help others, right? But it's a double-edged sword, because I needed help. You understand what I'm saying? I needed help. So it's always been like that thing where I'm like, I'm trying to help people and I need a lot of help for myself. You understand what I'm saying? I need to tweak my own mental health in a lot of ways. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a gradual process, and I can, I'm older now, and I've amassed a lot of experience in that way. So it's not easy, man. So I have to say, being a mentor, it has its highs and its lows, and be speaking up for others, its highs and its lows. So pace yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself, because it's a process. You understand what I'm saying? Because you need it as much as others need it. You know what I mean?
Let me caveat, because you made me realize what I want to say. You don't walk in a room and just start yelling at people. Don't just because. And sometimes you will see things.
Do that. Always do that, kids. Yell at all.
Read the room. First of all, read the room, because sometimes read the room and choose your battles, because sometimes it might not be the right time to speak up, and B, you might not know how to speak to the people in the room so they can receive your message. But C, also choose your battles, because sometimes I've seen people go hard for things that I'm like, this is only going to be for tomorrow. What about 10 years from now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got your seat at the table, but you know that this project ends in a day. So sit down, but don't get comfortable because you're going to be gone. You know, really read the room, and also realize you don't have to fight every battle with all full force. Some things it could just be said. Some things can literally just be like communicated with a feeling. Some things you really do have to stand up, but really read the room and practice that and speak up in smaller parts of your life, because don't use that. I don't want nobody going out there and going up to a sweet level meeting and having like a Malcolm X level speech. And like they're not
On
prepared
day
to
2.
articulate the message.
Nowadays, it's real. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
You know, and you know, I think that one thing I could say about a lot of our younger counterparts is that, you know, because of social media, they are a lot more comfortable speaking up, which is great. However, speaking up is just one part of that. Speaking up and getting somebody to receive your message in a way that will be helpful to what you want is really what you're looking for. So I just want to caveat that. I don't want to incite any riots.
You're absolutely right,
Play
man.
yourself, kid.
You're absolutely right.
It's like, don't play yourself, kiddos. Do not, you know, don't play yourself. You still gotta be a professional.
Which is why you need a mentor to talk to, because they will help you to realize what battles are stupid and could just be let go, and the battles that you really need to hold on to. And they will also help you realize how to use your voice. Just gonna say.
And also know where you are in the space of time. You know what I mean? Know where you are in the space of yourself. Because there are times when you need to speak up in the time of your career, where you need to break away, when you need to create a different paradigm for yourself. So you gotta know, that's where the mentor come into play. You know what I mean? You gotta, you know, you have to really do that exercise in terms of the existential exercise to know where you are. You know what I mean? And I think mentorship is really help with that. You know, have that someone to talk to. You know what I mean?
Now, does anyone have any recommendations other than going through the Ash Academy? But getting your mentor, how did you go about getting your mentors along the way? Did you have trouble getting mentors? I will say, starting out, it's been a lot of peer uplift with me, so friends like figuring out things together, but it hasn't been like a formal, I have a mentor and they have given me the guidance that I was really needing. So that's kind of why I started this organization, to kind of feed into that void that I probably, I'm not alone, where there might have not been a formal mentor. So I'm just trying to help people out, but share, how are you guys feeling on that point?
For me, just really quickly, because I didn't get to answer the last question, representation is everything for me. It is, you know, I think the main reason why I jumped into acting, to be an actor, so that I can influence people in a way that, you know, I can have my voice heard in that and all that. And, you know, just to give an example, being like a Latino Will Smith in the industry, we don't have that, you know. Just like an all-around actor, action, comedy, drama, just like, who's that guy for Latinos, you know? And so I'm trying to do it. But anyway, now
So we're going to say Marc Reign. We're going to claim it for you, Marc Reign.
That's right. Let's go. Gotta manifest these things and then work hard. But as far as mentorship goes, for me, it's always happened, I think, you know, just organically. You know, I think I mentioned earlier when I made the major switch from mechanical engineering to theater, you know, I think just telling him my story, telling him how bad I want to do this and try, and then seeing the effort that I was putting in match that, you know, it kind of made him just naturally feel like, okay, maybe this guy, maybe he's got something, you know, and he just kind of like took me under the wing and just taught me a lot of things already in the real world while I was in college, you know, and then whatever, I graduated and we followed up, but, you know, then the real world started. And then another mentorship came from just working hard again. His name is Danny Hastings. Shout out to my boy Danny Hastings. He does a lot. But long story short, he actually met me as an editor, then found out that I could shoot, hired me to be a shooter, and then found that I can act, and then casted me in his lead film, and then since then he's just like, I got you, I'm kind of under his wing still even today, he's just like, anything you need, like you can, hit me up. He's a, older Latino man in the industry making waves for us too. And so it's helped, Marc Reign become Marc Reign, if I'm going to be completely honest, because he was a major part of being like, this is who you're going to be from now on. This is who you are. This is what you need to do, kind of like, being your hype man. You need that. You need somebody that's going to kind of crack the whip on you, but also, put you up and in the spotlight.
Absolutely. Did I miss anybody on the representation before we move on to mentor? Chris, did you get a chance?
Can you repeat the question?
The original one for representation, how does it feel being, I guess, someone that people look up to?
Or representing?
Yeah, so you're embodying representation for people.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
So I guess culturally, so both my parents are from El Salvador, and I've been going there since I was 5. And when I get on set, there's definitely my first set, I was the only Latino, and then 10 sets after that, I was the only Latino on the set. So it immediately became this like you're the odd man out, I guess. But then there was also a class difference, right? There was like a major class difference. So I think maybe that's another reason why I wasn't able to like network in the way that I could, like, better. And then again, it became just about like just being there for your work, right? And you have to ask yourself that, like, why are you there? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I guess it's a philosophy as well, but like I think there is a danger with identifying too much with one identity, whether it's even like, sure, race, but like male, just anything, any form of identity. There is a danger if you get too stuck to it, because then there's this danger with pride, right? And then that's how you'll get in trouble, and then that's how you'll, like, if you speak out at the wrong times, it's like you had this pride. I've definitely gotten in trouble, written an email I shouldn't have written. And I think that the best way, if you are going to speak up, is when it just comes out naturally, when your heart's like, oh, this is wrong. Like, and at that point, you don't even care, because it's like, this is wrong. And that's kind of, I don't know if I answered the question or not, but that's where I said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway for that conversation, especially on speaking out, is that it is a process. I wouldn't recommend for anyone just day one, like, you know what, guns ablazing, someone said something to me that doesn't sit right with me, let's go. I would choose your battles, but I also, by principle, like, if it is serious, if it's affecting your work on set, it's time to say something, because nothing for your own mental health. There's not enough money to sacrifice how I'm feeling, how I'm functioning for the rest of the day, for the rest of my life, because of a toxic work environment. So just, especially on that note, Go for it.
Toxic work environment could be very toxic, and depending how how you handle things, it could really affect your health. So it's something to ponder. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in working with that and managing that and kind of the guidance and choosing your battles, anyone else want to hop in on kind of the mentorship front? Like, who has given you that guidance, and how did you go about getting that guidance if they weren't like a family member or whatnot? Did you have to like network to get your mentor, or did you actively seek that out?
I would say for me, in my experience, especially really early on when I was in college and really first just kind of trying to make any and everything. I had two Black professors, both of which that just hit it off. One, I'm in Kansas, there's already not a lot of Black people. Two, it's a film set, there's already not a lot of Black people. So when, you're working hard, you're making an effort, it was almost one of those things where they, I wouldn't say sought me out, but it's kind of like, hey, what's your story? What's your deal? And you kind of build a rapport. And that's kind of what happened with me. So I was able to bounce ideas off them and have them read scripts and be like, this doesn't make sense. You got to work on this. But it was all positive that helped, my growth. And I think that in a different way, that was the case, especially when I was, PAing in different departments, still not a lot of diversity. So, you might just feel, you get somebody who's like, hey, there's the one Black guy on the show besides me. It's like, hey, that producer's cool, that producer is not cool. You kind of they kind of crimp you. So I like that. That was kind of my experience. And in events, whenever somebody at the company I work for now is new that joins, really regardless of race, but especially if they're, a person of color, I definitely want to just be, kind of get them in, get them comfortable, get them feeling like, hey, you might not know anybody, but it's okay. Like we can chop it up. Any questions, however dumb or smart, you can ask me. Cause I think it's important to kind of lower people's like senses of anxiety. If they're, they're a good hire, they're a good person, it's like, yeah, why not be a team player, make everybody comfortable, cause they you might, need them to do the same for you one day. So.
Absolutely. I don't know if everyone's like me, but I do look out for if there's any people of color in the room. I'm like, okay, all right, plan our side talk, our little side chat. But that's just me in every room I go into because I'm used to being the token. So that's just I happened into going to City College and going to a very diverse school. I'm used to being the only Black person in the room and maybe one of 5 Black people in the whole entire school. So
I gotta piggyback on that real fast. So a good friend of mine who's she's an actress and her day job is she works at this studio and we were talking and the way we became friends, she's Vietnamese or of Vietnamese descent, and I don't know, like randomly we were just talking. I was giving her some paperwork to sign. She was giving me back. She was signing it and giving it back to me. And I'm a little bold, so I can, be like, oh wow, race relations don't bother me, so I'll comment on it off the cuff. Doesn't bother me, but I know that a lot of people makes people squirm. But she was game, and she was like, actually, like, I'm glad you said that, and it led to this like 20-minute conversation about the industry and about, her perspective of a lack of representation, whether that be on an administrative level or in front of the camera or behind the camera. And obviously I said my piece, but it was like a really dope organic thing that just happened. And we're, and from 2 different perspectives. She's an Asian woman, I'm a Black man, and we're good friends now because of it, because we just, you just kind of hit it off. I'm not sure what the point of that was, but you said something that got me going with that.
You're bonding over being people of color. We got it. Anyone else kind of letting people know outside of like an organization that seeks out to pair people with mentors, or like every event that we do is somewhat kind of driven by some sort of a representation and potential mentors for people. But how did you guys get your mentors? That's kind of what it's kind of an incredible question, because not everybody finds their mentors the same way, and it might not be one formula that works for everyone else. So
I think I kind of did similar to what you do. I kind of look for that person in the room that I feel might have a similar like story or something, and it doesn't necessarily, they don't necessarily always need to be Black. They don't necessarily need to be gay. They don't need to be me, but just somebody that I just sometimes I can just, you can just feel it. I'm like, this person, I feel their energy, and I'll just go approach them. So I also am a presenting extrovert, but also I'm a loner on the real. But like, so I will push myself out and just be like, hey, I'm Robert. I work here. I do such and such, and I'll just start talking. And I'm like, I want to talk to you. I want to know about your life. I've actually gone up to executives and say, I really want to sit down and just learn how you got here. And and not because, and that's what I'm saying. I think it goes back to that sincerity part. Just kind of like what Jonathan said, speaking about what you really want. Because the thing is that after a certain, I think most executives and people who have been in industry, the veterans, they know that people want to talk to them. They know that people want to get a job. They know all that stuff. But so when you start doing this whole hi, I'm such and such, and I live get right to the point. They know it. They know that you want help, and a lot of them want to help you. A lot of them want to actually mentor people. A lot of people really want to help people get up. No, I think that a lot of times we just assume that these executives just get there and they're just like, I have made it to the top and I'm not looking back. A lot of executives really do want to help get you up there. A lot of VPs, a lot of directors, a lot of you, but even a lot of your friends want you to win. And it's just that simple as just communicating what you want. And they can maybe figure out, and sometimes they want the same thing. Maybe sometimes they've wanted that and they know how to get it. It's just that simple as having that conversation. And then mentorship then kind of comes out of that. I don't think I've actually said to anybody, you are my mentor. It was just, I talked to this person over and over again, and it became it became a thing that just was so natural that if I had an issue, I'm like, oh, I got a call. You know what I mean? Because I knew that this is somebody I can count on to guide me through the darkness when I can't see it for myself.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Anyone else some tips and tricks on garnering some mentorship and guidance, or is it really just networking in general and those kind of relationships blossom into a mentorship rather than just acquaintance or an associate?
I'll say it can. I don't think there's necessarily one path. Just be open to the connection.
Yeah, I agree. I found most of my mentors just working with them and finding people that were in a position that I eventually wanted to get to, and asking them questions, asking them for advice. But I know other people who have just picked somebody who they very very well respect and reached out. They had no prior contact and they established communication and mentorship that way. So there's no not just one way to do it, but depending on which works for you and what your assets are. If you want to go into a very special, if you want to get to a specific job, then talk to people who are doing that and ask for their advice.
I just wanna say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think you could. Well, one thing is I'm yawning a lot because I was trying to figure out if we're gonna have a new president last night. So so I didn't sleep that much. So just to get that out of there. So you guys, my eyes are watery, whatever. So, but I think it's an exercise, man, to try to. I think it's something. Just looking back at myself back in the days, I think you should actually seek out mentors, man. I think you should be aggressive about it. I would advise young people be aggressive about it because I think it will help. It has everything like the networking, you know what I mean, and propel you into the next level of your career, and you learn new skills, whatever. I think it's something that I wish that I had taken more advantage of. You know what I mean? Actively seeking out mentors and trying to, you know what I mean, seek out people to try to help me out. I think that's something, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been 10 years since I've seen you at City College, so I do wish I had kept in touch more often, but I haven't seen many of you in a long time. So, the COVID, so you never know what could happen in different situations that will create distance. But being genuine when you do reach back out and say, hey, just being upfront with, hey, I got this situation, I would love to have you on. And we will definitely have some continual conversations after this. So
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing is just being genuine with people. Even if it is transactional,
Right.
I have a job for someone and I want to give this job to you, or hey, I am looking for careers in this aspect. The power of the ask, like just ask people. There's so much in just don't worry about it. If the worst thing that can happen is the no. once they say it, you're at the same square one.
And once you put no 5,000 times, it feels so much easier.
Yeah. You know, I want to add, I just want to say, like, be intentional, you know, at your networking events, whether you're seeking mentorship or just genuinely trying to connect with other creatives so that you can start creating, right? Like because that's how I enter networking events. I don't know who's really going to be there unless I know who's going to be there. And I'm just here. I want to create. This is what I want to do. That's what, you know what I mean? So I'm going to talk to
Your
everybody.
energy, yes.
Yeah, you know, the energy, like that's the energy I walk in with. I just want to create. What do you do? Can we create together? Cool. If not, it's still cool, you know? And I think, you know, understanding you and trying to be the best version of you is going to just gravitate people towards you, right? Because the energy, like Mano was saying. And also think about it. If you were a person in a position to mentor somebody, who would you want to put under your wing? You know, would want to be somebody who's actively trying to be a better version of themselves so that they can achieve their dreams. And that vision with ambition is usually what makes people go, yeah, I want to help this person, you know? And, you know, I would say that that's maybe the easiest, maybe not easy, but oh snap, best approach to trying to find a mentorship, you know?
Perfect. Anyone else? This is the final kind of segment of this. Just advice for youth trying to get into this industry or thinking about getting into this industry or multiple industries. Can't really kind of form them all together. Someone's going to get mad. Don't get mad at me, internet. But anyone trying to get into entertainment at large, like what kind of motivation can you guys lay out for them?
Kids just go and say, give me a job, and that don't say anything else. It works 100% of the time. Do that all the time. It always works. I'm just effing around. Of course, don't do that. No, I don't have anything to add besides, you know, applauding these gentlemen for what they said. It's literally, I think, an amalgamation of what everybody just said is like things that I did to tie, to get me either mentorships or better networking. It's literally like a grouping of what everybody said. So, you know, just we want to say cheers to everybody, and you know, really, really good stuff. You kind of take me back down memory lane and just thinking about all these, you know, moments where it's like, yep, did that, should have done that better, you know. So, you know, big ups to you.
Hop on
Yeah.
in.
I would say don't give up. You know, I mean, just life experience, because trends happen and you fall. And when trends happen, decades happen, 7 years happen, you know what I mean? 5 years happen. And then don't lose track, man, and don't give up. Just stay in, because, you know, there's trends happen, economic trends or whatever. Don't lose track, even if your friends are losing track. I've had many friends, many colleagues just fell off. Don't fall off, because if you fall off, somebody is going to eat your lunch, because you're preparing the groundwork for them. They're going to eat your lunch. So stay on that track. You understand what I'm saying? And the second is keep experimenting, because once you get a job, you lose that desire. Keep making stuff like you're a kid. Keep making stuff, because that's the secret of becoming Spielberg. You know what I'm saying? You know, I have to say, you know, you lose that in a sense when you start getting a job and you keep making stuff, man. If you don't, then you're never gonna achieve that where you want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, persistence is what coming to. And you know, you might not do what you want to do right now, but every production that you work on, every project that you work on, you will learn something from that. You'll become better at your craft through that.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say, you know, you have to, in this industry of arts and entertainment, you know, you have to really fall in love with this. Make sure you are in love with this, because this will test you. And it's only when you're in love with something that you will go to heights that you never imagined you would go to, because you're in love, you know. And this is it's rough. It's gonna test you in many ways, because there's no guarantee. You understand? It's not like going to law school, putting in the work, and you know that by the time law school is up, you're gonna be a lawyer. This don't work like that. You go to school, you get a paper, okay. we don't know what's gonna happen now. It's all on your work ethic, you know. So make sure you love this, fall in love with it more and more, stay in the learning curve, which I think a lot we talked a lot about, you know, earlier. You know, stay refining yourself, your tools, and believe in yourself. I think that's one of the most important things. Believe in yourself. I like to say that anything you believe in, you give it power. You know, not to get too deep, but that's why there's many different religions, and you know, it's just a bunch of people believing in this. And when you believe in something, you give it power. So believing in yourself is maybe the most important thing you could ever do in your life. And so start there, and you a jump start. You jump start.
So we got another pastor on the line. We appreciate it. Come on, come on. I will say one thing before I let everybody else take over. Kind of the social media aspect of creation and like the new media thing. When that new thing comes out, do not be afraid of it. Learn it. And that new app comes out, learn it. Be ready to adjust to it, because there are different marketing. This is why I pivoted into business school for my grad degree. There are different ways that people consume products. You might have to reimagine things in a 1-minute format, a 5-minute format, instead of the long narratives that you wanted to create. And it just might be the reality of what you have to start producing. So that's my major. Don't be afraid of the new or the new thing. Like it, just pivot for it. So the next person that wants to
I want to go off of, I want to go off of that note. Technology, like I used to be so intimidated by cameras because I was like, oh, I just know how to use like a small camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be intimidated in the craft of cinematography because I didn't know how to use the Red or the ARRI or all these big cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it took this one cinematographer on set. I was just doing behind the scenes and he asked me, oh, what camera are you on? And he's like, call Canon up, tell them who I am, and get this camera. And I'm like, okay. And so I did that. And then I got the camera and I've never seen this camera. It was the C700, the new one. And I was like, okay. So, and I literally learned it in like 5 minutes because all the cameras are the same. They just all have a specific button. Same with like I jumped on this other feature film and I had to learn the Red and I only had one AC and I had never shot with it and I had to learn it and I learned it, you know. So don't be intimidated by technology, especially big technology and its size. We learned to drive cars and we can take the car wherever we want. So don't let technology like get you or drive you, you drive technology. And in that same topic, all obstacles are opportunities. Like, I know that's a common quote, but like, learn to love the obstacles. And if you learn to love the obstacles, they start to not phase you anymore. And then you prepare for them. You're like, okay, what's the next camera? Or what's the next big thing? What's this like? It becomes easier.
I mean, the whole reason why this academy exists is for my failures. I was like, I have a lot to share because of things not working out so often. So thank you. Yeah, all of those obstacles can turn into opportunities. Absolutely. Anyone else want for some final notes, please? Please, Pastor, come on.
I would say 3 things. Number one, my biggest thing, I would say this for everything, is if you are in the room, you belong in the room. You are part of the room. You got in there.
Yes.
Do not ever let anybody let you believe that you're not supposed to be in there. And there will be times when people will do their best to make you feel like you're not supposed to be in there. But you are part of the room. If you got in that room, you're in there. You're supposed to be in there. Number 2, when you get scared, lean into your fear. There will be so many times, like even now I'm doing stuff where I'm just like, oh God, I don't know what I'm about to do. But I lean into it because the best thing I can do at that moment is learn. And fear is really just the absence of not knowing what you're going to do next. And it's just faith. So you just got to lean into your fear and have faith that you're going to get through it. I promise you, no matter what, even if sometimes you will lean into your faith and it won't work out the way you want, it will still be to your betterment. Number 3, aim high, dream high. I wanted to be, when I graduated from Hofstra, I wanted to be a live stage manager for Good Morning America. That was my thing. I wanted to do this, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to do it. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to do that. And I took on positions where I was a stage manager at a concert. I did, like, anytime I can get something to that. And I'm not saying that I didn't live my dream. I will say that because I shot there, it helped me to give me a path to find, like, to keep my zenith straight. As you know, I didn't just walk in and get a TV job from day one. Every job I did is the amalgamation of who I am, and I will take this who I am to go forward. So I keep that really high dream to help me to keep those moments where I just kind of lose myself to kind of focus on that. So dream hard and dream big and keep yourself focused on that, because that will help you when you have those moments where you did not get the job, when somebody's making you feel like you're not supposed to be there. You keep that job in your thing, because that's going to be the thing, or keep that goal, because that's the thing that's going to keep you going through those rough moments. So you're in the room, so you belong in the room, right? I forgot the second one. What was the second one? But in the third one, no, literally, it's just all about really just setting your intention straight and just staying focused and leaning into your fear. Fear and doubt will always be there, and then you can only battle them if you don't lean into them. So just lean into that. So that's my stuff.
Absolutely perfect. Anyone else have any last words? It's a little hard to. Oh, the
Last thing I want to
other
say,
pastors on the at the altar. Come on.
I always like to say that, because people, when they say manifestation or, manifested, that doesn't always click for people. They don't always know what that means. What does that mean? How do you do that? Right. And so I like to keep it simple and just say, the saying, from your mouth to God's ears, but then back to your footwork. You understand? You got to meet God halfway, and whether you believe, what your religious beliefs are, that in form is how manifestation works. You got to say it, and then you got to walk it. You know what I mean? Meet the universe halfway. It will conspire for you, and so that's my sermon for today, y'all. I just want to say thank you.
See, y'all leaning into your pastorship. I appreciate it.
The collection plate's being passed as we
All
speak.
right, hallelujah. You can go to the ashacademy.org/donate to put in our collection plate. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate every last one of you for sharing. This was amazing. Once again, I am Sammy Ash, the Executive Director of the Ash Academy, and everyone have a good one. Thank you.
Nice meeting all of you, brothers.